Namaste, everybody. Welcome to the Honor Yoga Foundation Triple Cast. My name is Maria Turco, CEO and founder of Honor Yoga and chairwoman of the Honor Yoga Foundation. I am so excited to be here with you today because what we're going to talk about today really, I believe, it is attributed to the first yama in yoga. So I'm proud to introduce to you Vincent Gulino, who is as we just discussed a few minutes ago, the founder and the owner and chief cook and bottle washer of Try Vegan. Vincent, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, we talked about this, you and I, we've had conversations over the last couple of months, really. And it was just such an honor, to, no pun intended, to meet you and get to know you and your company. I'll start with a question that I like to start with all of my triple casts. And that is, to you, what is yoga?
What is yoga? It's a great question. To me, yoga, I guess I came into it ignorant, like completely ignorant. I didn't know much about what yoga was. I know it was a physical practice. I didn't realize, I guess being a man, you're into lifting weights, doing those kind of like manly workouts. But once you're in it, you don't realize how tough it is to actually sustain those poses for so long. And it becomes like a strength building exercise. It becomes like almost mental when you're trying to really hold those poses and really keep your core engaged, keep everything tight. And then it's just something that goes with you for the rest of the day. Once you have your moment, your hour, however long your session is on the mat, you just walk with your head held higher. You walk, you're more limber throughout the day. And something I really need to get back into. I can definitely feel that I'm missing it in my life right now.
Yeah, I totally understand. And, I think that's a great point because you're an inspiration for a lot of, men out there, because right now only 30% of our constituents are male. I actually was at an appointment yesterday and met an x-ray technician who was a construction worker for 20 years, really crippled his body so much. Now all he does is work in the hospital and does yoga every day, and it completely changed his life. And sometimes men think they need to be flexible to come to yoga. So it's really inspirational for the audience to hear that from you. One of the reasons why I asked you to be a guest on this podcast is because everything that we do at Honor Yoga Foundation is about yoga. And some people think that yoga is just the physical practice, right, of keeping your body in shape. But actually, that's only one limb of yoga, which is asana, the physical practice. There's so many more limbs of yoga. And some of the other limbs are called the yamas and the yamas. And yamas and yamas is how we live for ourselves in the world and with other people throughout the world, because we're all universally connected. And what I find so interesting and congruent about being vegan and even Ayurveda is those are sister philosophies and even ways of life that are so within the yoga umbrella, because the first yama of yoga is ahimsa. And ahimsa means not create harm, whether it's harming animals or harming our bodies or harming ourselves, and taking good care of each other and ourselves. And so I was really, really excited, right, to share that with our audience today, what the meaning of yoga is and how being vegan fits into that component of ahimsa. And that's really where I see the cross section between being vegan and yoga. But I knew you were going to answer this question when I asked you, which was, if you could put one thing on a billboard, what would it be? And your answer was
Try vegan. That's pretty much the whole statement,
So in that spirit of what brings people to try vegan, from your perspective, Vincent, what are the benefits of trying vegan and being vegan?
So you only had a half hour, right?
Yeah, I know you have a really long list.
Like whenever anyone asks me that question, it's like trying to shove too many things down a funnel. Like, where do I even begin? Depending on who the person is and why they would be asking me that question is how I respond. For a selfish reason, it's because you feel better. You yourself, you'll start feeling better. For me, my skin started clearing up. I started waking up more refreshed in the morning. Actually, my joints started feeling better. The fat, that stubborn fat that you can't quite lose, that just melts off without even having to work out. Then you get into the environmental impact. Then you get into compassion for the animals. You can keep going on and on and on. Sustainability.
Yeah, you and I were talking about that one documentary that they did where athletes who are Olympic athletes, and, sometimes people think, oh, I'm not going to get enough protein.
that was one of the first things I noticed was I didn't lose any ability to lift weights. I didn't lose anything. I actually almost aged in reverse where I could play basketball and keep up with younger people. That wasn't something that clicked for me. It was like, all right, as soon as athletes start doing this, that's it. Like that's it. Because they're going to be able to outpace their opponents. They're going to be able to play for longer, and everyone's just going to start making that change. And I inevitably see that cutting season within the next, I don't know how long it's going to take for the meatheads to catch on, but cutting season is just going to be people converting to veganism for that amount of months. Because there's really no more efficient way to, like I said, lose body fat. And, if you're trying to really cut, you start doing your cardio, you're going to feel better about doing cardio if you're eating a plant-based diet.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the research really points to that. And I know I mentioned Ayurveda before, but like to your point, there's been so many documentaries and facts on dispelling the myths of how vegan does not deplete athletic performance. It does help you lose weight because you're shedding all the toxins, because meat in a sense is very acidic. It puts a lot of strain on your digestive system. It's like, think of an engine and you're kind of throwing meat in that engine as opposed to beautiful fibrous vegetables, right? You tax it over time. So I mean, intuitively it makes so much sense. What's something that really touched your heart, because you're really changing people's lives? And if you could share a little bit about that. I love this lesson in gratitude that one of your staff members
Yeah, yeah. So
turned you on to.
it was a combination of customer compliment and me not really accepting it because I used to work as a retail manager. And when I'm there, customers come in, they compliment the store. The store's run so well, everything's so nice and clean. And it's great to hear, but I didn't put that system in place. I'm just a cog in the wheel. So I'm the person taking the compliment, I accept it, and I'm grateful for it. But then I go out and I start my own business. And, that started out as a food truck. I'm not sure if people are familiar with Try Vegan or what it is, but it started out as a food truck. Now it's a meal delivery service. Back in the early days on that food truck, I would be so in it. I'm just trying to do what I need to do to satisfy this customer and give them a good experience. And, customers say, oh my God, this is so good. This tastes so good. And like, it would just go in one ear and out the other. And one day this happened again. I'm making my falafel, I'm making a falafel wrap, and I'm just in it. And this customer says, "Oh man, this is such a great falafel." Like she said it in the window. And I'm like, "Thank you, thank you." And I just continue what I was doing. My friend Dave, who was my cashier at the time, he looks over at me. He's like, "Vince, listen to what she's saying. She's complimenting you on what you did, what you've done here." And I really took a moment to like really appreciate like this was an idea in my head, that I had when I was working a job, and now here I am, and someone's actually thanking me for what I did here. And just made me feel really, really good that, and it reminded me that like I'm actually I'm not changing the world, but this person really enjoyed what I had to do, and I didn't harm any animals doing it. I didn't have to do anything like that, and just really felt good.
Yeah, again, like so many weaves with yoga, because it's about a practice of gratitude, of being present and being mindful, for those moments, and to be able to receive that gratitude and say thank you and that gift. And so what I love about it, it is a lifestyle, right? It's a positive lifestyle like yoga that, it's not just eating, for the sake of eating healthy or building muscle or losing weight. It's this idea that's beyond that transcends all of those things, which energetically, right? That's the energy that we're also putting into our bodies when we do that. And science has proven meridians and energy. And so it's really powerful stuff. So what's one thing in your business that you didn't expect, that if you had to go back and say, I was really surprised by this? And where are you proud of yourself? What's the thing that you're proud of yourself most for?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm the most surprised with is the response I get to the food I make. Because, like I said in my previous answer, people love the food. And to me, like, I'm not a classically trained chef. Like, I remember my father, when he found out I was doing this and starting a food truck, there's a matter of contention because to me, it was, all right, how do I start a business? How do I build a food truck? This, that, and the other thing. He was caught in what's the menu going to be? And to me, that's the last piece of the puzzle. I could put anything together if I need to. So the fact that, people, like I've had compliments that are like next level. Like not just like, oh, this food is good. Like I've had one customer come up to my food truck and they had the hummus and they said, this is the second best hummus I've ever had. I was like, okay. They said, it's only because I lived in Israel for 10 years. And I was like, oh, so this
Well,
person,
that's a compliment.
yes, this person knows their hummus and they really, really like it. I'm really surprised that I guess I have like a natural ability to make things taste good. Not necessarily that I'm a chef, but it really feels good to hear that. And then an even better compliment is when customers, I don't even have to hear from these customers. I just see them ordering again the next week.
Right.
That's a compliment in and of itself, and then I look at the statistics and before I know it, they've ordered 10, 20 times. And I'm just like, wow, that's amazing.
What's your most popular dish?
For the meal delivery service, it's got to be a toss up between I do a pad thai, which I think you may have tried, and then I also do a mango chickpea curry, which people really love. That one I got another compliment. Someone said, "Oh wow, I've never had a curry like this. This is amazing." I thought, all right, well, I've never had curry before, and then they go to tell me they were an engineer in Abu Dhabi for 5 years. so, so these people,
That's awesome. I haven't tried the curry. Now I'm so excited, but just so you know, in my house, I put my name on the pad thai and the stuffed peppers when they come to the house because if I don't do that, then it gets claimed by somebody else.
it's great.
So that yes, the pad thai is definitely one of my favorites, and so are the stuffed peppers. I have to really try the
Thank you.
curry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to do that next week then. I kind of I try to keep my regulars in there and then try to add a few new ones that are experimental. And then, inevitably I'll get like that one email with like this week I did like a Thai salad, which is with a new dressing. And I get a picture, someone posts on their Instagram that this is the best salad they've ever had. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's fantastic actually, not just good. So
Yeah,
I know you mentioned your dad before and your dad has passed and you mentioned him in, asked the question if you could have dinner with any three people dead or alive, who would it be and why? So
yeah.
maybe you can tell us a little bit more about, your parents and dad and your inspiration and
Oh, yeah, that's tough. He passed June 2019. The irony of that being is that he died of a heart attack. And, you know, at first I beat myself up. I should have just done more is what I tried to tell myself. But then I realized like what more could I have done as a person? I parked of there was a vegan food truck outside every day that he went to work in our driveway that said try vegan on it. So, if that didn't get through to him, I don't know what more I could have done. As an individual, he was just a tremendous man, a tremendous inspiration. Up until he passed at 61, and he got me into doing 5Ks. He was an avid runner. He biked. He played softball his whole life, as long as I can remember. Like in a sprint, he was always faster than me. The one thing was he loved his Italian meats and cheeses. And I would tell him, like, those are the worst things. Those are what clogs the arteries, And yeah, I mean, it's tough to wrap your head around. One day he's there, the next day he's not because he just went down and didn't come back up. I remember driving to the hospital hearing there was an incident. And I was hoping beyond hope that all right, maybe he had a heart attack, now this will be the wake up call for him. I'll put him on a diet, have him eat only vegetables so that his arteries clear, this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, it's not how it happened. And starting out, old school Italians, they're from Italy. So me becoming vegan, first of all, was just what do you mean? That didn't even come, they couldn't even comprehend that. And then for me so I had the idea in 2014. I quit my job in 2015. I mean, Drive Vegan right now is the longest running vegan food truck in the region. There was Cinnamon Snail before me. They've since closed down. They were there. I think they started about 10 years ago. And then I came about. So, my parents were like, what vegan, start a sub truck, make pizza. What are you doing? They wanted me to do something safe and, something that worked in the past, but I wanted to show them that that's not where the world was heading. And I'll never forget, he died. And then a month later, that's when Burger King starts advertising on TV. There's a commercial for the Impossible Whopper. And then just one thing after another, it's just like this plant-based revolution happened. And I'm just like, man, he just missed it. So yeah, that's kind of the rundown of
Yeah, no, that's a really great story. It's kind of like, well, I can still do this in spite of, my dad didn't get on board. It almost motivates you to want to do it even more to help more people. So they don't do that. I grew up Italian and I can appreciate that, every Sunday we have our bolognese sauce. And I have to admit, I snuck in 50% impossible meat in the last batch that I made. Nobody noticed. So
nice.
I'm going to go to 75. So I hope my family's not listening. I'm going to 75% next time, and then I'm going to 100. So, it's kind of like, when my girls were little, I'd grind up the vegetables in the blender and then put it in their mac and cheese,
Yeah.
So,
The products alone have just become so realistic. I remember, I'm sure, your sister's been vegan for quite some time as well.
yes.
And I remember one time, I think it was like Morningstar bacon, and it looked like it was like pink, like a pink ruler almost. It looked like with like white streaks. And I remember making it. My dad's like, "What is that?" And I ate it, and it literally tasted like
Cardboard.
someone. What's that?
Cardboard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like someone dipped cardboard in bacon flavor and threw it on a skillet. And now you have like Beyond Meat, which is revolutionary. And the thing that frustrates me the most is, so they come out with this Beyond Meat burger, like that's incomprehensible to someone who's grown up with, well, not grown up, but like I've seen the alternatives, I've had them. So for them to come out with something that tastes and looks and feels identical to a good burger, not even just like some bland burger, like it blew my mind. And then I see on Facebook, I don't know if it's like Vice or whoever, talking about like Beyond Meat comes out with a burger, but is it healthier? That's not the point. The point is we made it taste like meat. Like that's incredible science. And now veganism is held to such a high standard that not only does it have to taste like a burger, it also has to be healthier than a burger.
Yeah, it kind of, again, another intersection with yoga. It's kind of like you try yoga the first time, you're like, that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. I don't think I like that at all. And then after 3 or 4 classes, you're like, I don't really know how I lived without this before, because of the transformation, the way you feel. With yoga, you're creating energetic life. When you're eat vegan, you're putting energy, live energy. Plants are alive, versus meat is dead. There's no energy there, right? And that is part of your chi, your life force, your kanda, your bhava, your prana, as we say, and all of these. And that's that for all of, for those of you listening who are yogis, it's just beyond, like, to your point, I asked you this in the beginning of the podcast, is like, well, what are the benefits? You're like, oh, well, do we have 5 hours? Because it's really, there really is just so many. And I think that, to your point, it doesn't have to taste bad. It actually is pretty good now, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. It's just delicious, right? And so I think people have this misconception, just like there's a misconception, at least for our generation, right? Like, well, you're a little younger than me, Vincent, but I'm in my, mid 40s. So like, it's, for me, it's like, you think I'm not going to get enough protein, and
Yeah.
it's going to taste like cardboard, and it's not going to help me lose weight. It's going to be very carb heavy. And, and so all of those things are false.
Yeah.
So I want the audience to know that, right? That it can taste really, really good and be really, really great for you.
In my opinion, I'm not a scientist, but I can tell you what I've noticed. And I think the micronutrients and the phytonutrients, I think they play a much bigger role in building muscle than protein actually does. And not to mention that people talk about like a lean cut of chicken, but what they don't realize is, and what really did it for me was, all right, so chickens are being raised in like a 20th of how their adult life to be slaughtered for food. And those animals are gigantic compared to what they were in the 50s, a few generations back. So the analogy I use is like, imagine Someone who's in let's say a supermarket or a Walmart or something, and they're on one of those scooters, right? They can barely walk because they're so big. That is the meat you're eating when you're eating meat, regardless of what you think it is. It's just oversized, engorged meat. I mean, if you're eating a deer that you hunted, that's different. But if you're going to the supermarket and buying this meat, that's really the quality of meat you're eating. And that's just not something I want to put in my body at all.
Right. You mentioned something really interesting when I asked you this question, and that is, if you could do anything to improve health and healthcare in America, what would you do? Kind of touched upon it a little bit there, and I love this answer because it's, even when people leave, it's a mindful. They leave differently. They go back and forth between vegan and
Right.
eat meat in a more mindful way. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, the biggest change we can make, and I know that, it's a hard sell for people to actually convert to veganism or stay vegan for their whole lives. But what I've noticed is I've had a lot of friends, have been doing this for what, 8.5 years now. They've had the bug and they decided to like become vegan for a while, and regardless of like whether or not they stay vegan, if they once they go back, they're such a more informed consumer. They understand what happens to their body when they eat food. They understood how they felt when they were eating only plants compared to like how sluggish they feel now when they start eating meat. Whereas people who have never tried that, they don't know the difference. I kind of feel like a leader, like a cult or something, like, but it really is that way. People who try it just feel better. They're more informed, and they go back. And even if they do go vegan, they're like, listen, I only eat meat like maybe one meal a day. So that's really all I ask for. Just reduce the amount. Humans were not meant to process animal products 3 meals a day, 3 meals plus a day. It's just way too taxing on our system. Digestion is that takes up the most energy in our body. And that's why fasting is important too. But you put like things that are easily digestible, don't sit in your body for a while. Your body has time to do other things like heal itself. People keep inundating their body with the wrong foods. Eventually things are going to happen that, like, they're going to have joint problems, or they're going to get fat, which is the most immediate consequence. And your body gets a cut, it wants to heal. So you start putting the right things in your body will start healing all those problems that it has caused from, overuse, from being taxed from digestion.
So true. Well, I just want to stay here for 4 hours and talk about all that, because breaking fast means breakfast, right? You break your fast. And we teach this in Ayurveda. That's why keto is so popular, or even the whole intermittent fasting, right? Because we're finally giving our digestive system a break, and it's effective for people. And so, now things like leaky gut syndrome go away, and, all of these things go away. They're even doing fecal transplants now. We're taking fecal from one human and putting it into another human, because that one human has more probiotics and is teaching the intestines of the person who has issues how to, reteaching them how to process food, right? And so there's so much research out there that your gut is really has more nerves in it than your brain, the enteric nervous system. And so you got to be good to your gut, and you got to treat it like a, fragile way, and not overtax it. It's so interesting that you say that. I say this to my daughters all the time. And they're like, "Mom, ew, please don't say that." So I buy oat milk and almond milk, and I don't buy regular milk. I'm like, we just don't like it. And I'm like, well, you're not really meant to drink another mammal's booby milk. So I say that to them, and they're like, Mom, please, we don't need that visual. I'm like, yeah, you kind of do. You kind of need that visual, to make anything to get that, to educate them. And so what I love about what you said is that, you know, baby steps, right? You don't have to take extreme measures. I love how you said even people who try vegan and then go back to eating meat, they do it in a more mindful way. You mentioned my sister. So we have a very big Italian family. Some of us are vegetarian, some of us are vegan, some of us eat meat. My husband has a shirt that says 100% non-vegetarian. So that kind of just shows you what side of the he's on. But whenever she puts it on the table, she actually says, let's give thanks to this animal, and let's make sure that we treat this animal with respect and not waste it, because this animal gave their life for us. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, and if we didn't have people like you, Vincent, or my sister, those are the steps that we can take to make ourselves more healthy as a race and make mankind, elevate who we are and practice ahimsa for ourselves and for other living species. I think it's such a beautiful thing. So tell us what's the best tip that you would give us for making the world a better place? What would you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, firmly believe in the golden rule. There's just so many things that could be solved if people just realize that, like, you're talking to somebody who's also existing just as much as you are. I just saw an interaction on Facebook where these two people, I don't like getting political, I don't, whatever, but it was like Israel and Palestine, right? And one person was on the Israel side and the other person was on the Palestine side. And it's like, you understand that there's someone who believes just as firmly in the opposite because of where they come from and how they've existed. So you're not going to argue your way to getting them to agree with you. A lack of understanding in the world today, where people just don't understand that fact alone. Like, I understand there are people who eat meat, like I get it, but I try to get more bees with honey, get more, what's that expression? That's the approach I'm taking. I try to feed people, show them good food, they can try vegan. I prefer that rather than going into Saks Fifth Avenue and throwing paint on fur. I just don't see that as a productive way to
to get your message across.
Right. Or try to get people to see your side, your point of view. You're building more resistance is what you're doing. You're not making the change you think you are. And I'm sorry to say that. I know there are vegans out there that do that, but I believe there's a better way to get the message out there.
And Vincent, that's why we're dubbing you a yogi in the minds and hearts of Honor Yoga and the Honor Yoga Foundation. Yeah. Thank you. So tell our audience where they can find you and what they get for listening today.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone that listened to what I had to say today. So the best thing to do would be to go to my meal delivery service. It's available throughout the Northeast. I am based in New Jersey, but I ship north to Vermont, out to New York, Pennsylvania, down to Maryland. And the website is tryveganhomedelivery.com. And an exclusive discount that'll last for eternity will be use the discount code Honor Yoga, and you'll get 50% off your first subscription for any of our meal packages.
Thank you. That's very generous of you. And the Honor Yoga Foundation thanks you, Vincent, for being here and sharing your light with us. The light in us honors the light in you. And for those of you who are listening, please comment and tag us on Facebook and share. You will be entered to win a Humble Warrior t-shirt and an exclusive opportunity to go on a retreat at Orenda in the Catskills with me, an Ayurvedic and yoga retreat in the fall this year. So please share, like, comment, and try vegan. And we look forward to seeing you next time on our podcast. Thank you, Vincent.
You got it. One more thing I forgot to mention. I don't know if you know, I also have a podcast.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell us about that.
It's actually called Catching Up with Vince. I think I have like 50 episodes or something. I really enjoyed doing it. I kind of stopped after my father passed away and haven't gone back into it. Funny story is, I have a list of people I want to have on that show. And I've had it for years, and you are on that list. So it's funny to be on your podcast.
Well, I would love to be a guest on your podcast, so I'm looking forward to it. So this time was my place, next time your place. Let's do it again.
Perfect.
Thank you, Vincent.
You got it. Thank you, Maria. Take care.